buying. This is a very exciting, momentous moment, not just because this is the launch of the roadmap to community buying at Mazitas, but also because I am an IT idiot and I'm actually running a webinar. So that is something of a momentous achievement in this business. But fortunately, I have people around me who know what they're doing. Okay, so we are going to spend 30 minutes whizzing through something that is very exciting. And then there's going to be an opportunity at the end to ask lots of questions. But what I really need you to do to start is to open that mind and flip your thinking. Okay, the word flip appears an awful lot in everything I talk about. So I'm going to start with something that made me flip my thinking. And it made me ask a question: is anything as it seems? Okay, by the way, if you look over there, you can ask some questions, and you can hurl abuse at me or tell a joke or whatever it is whilst you're going over. Please do interact. Okay, so the thing that made me question everything was this man. Now, this is not Uncle from Only Fools and Horses. This is Charles Darwin, although they did have something in common. They both liked to get on a boat and get around the world. Now, obviously, Charles Darwin's work was, to be serious for a moment, all about change, the theory of evolution, etc. But what's extraordinary about it, I think, is that the most famous phrase from all of Darwin's work, which is, I'm sure if I asked you, you would know, the survival of the fittest, didn't appear in his first work. It did not appear in The Origin of Species in 1859. In fact, it didn't appear until 10 years later in the 5th edition. And the reason for that is he never wrote it. He did not write the one phrase that is the most commonly quoted by presidents in acceptance speeches, by motivational coaches. I've even heard it in sports commentaries. Okay, Darwin's Survival of the Fittest was written by Herbert Spencer 5 years after The Origin of Species. Now, I don't know what you think, but that made my mind flip, and I'm going to come back to the survival of the fittest and who is fittest to survive. So let's begin with a poll. All right, so you've got your chance now to do your first interaction. And the poll is going to ask a simple question. If community buying is all about two sides of one coin, i.e. the community and the corporation, the question I would like you to answer now, and you know what, we're going to come back to this again, is who is the most fit for survival in the current climate, the community or the corporation? Okay, it looks like everybody's voted. It looks like nearly everybody's voted, as I can see them flowing in. We'll let that run just for a second longer. Give it a go. You're there. You're nearly up to 80%. Brilliant. Well done. Okay. So it's a very, very interesting spread. I'm going to come back. I'm going to close that now, and I'm going to come back to that through the rest of the presentation. So I could have given these two options, but I didn't click the right button. So community or corporation. This is a story by pictures, so I'm therefore going to give you some words, of course, to be obtuse. And these words are quite a fairly large statement. The phenomenon that is community buying, and I'm talking about the phenomenon now, not Community Buying Limited as a company, but actually the entire phenomenon that could occur around the globe, will be of greater influence, okay? A bigger, more impressive phenomenon, more successful phenomenon across planet Earth than the fair trade movement. Why? Because whilst community buying questions, challenges current business thinking, it doesn't create an alternative to free trade. It simply makes free trade fair. So, bold statement it might well be, this is the point. No matter what a group buys, it follows certain golden rules as it goes along. Now, I've started with energy, but you could move on to anything. And this is stuff that a group has brought together, most of it under the umbrella of Community Buying Unlimited. Products that mean something, products that do something. So when a community buys together, it does three things in particular. First of all, it never buys on its own. It always buys with someone else. Secondly, everything's for negotiation. The bottom line is never really the bottom line because, of course, that's the point. The community goes and gets a better price, but it gets better service too. It gets lots of things that are better. Everything it buys is a benefit to the community that it's buying and enhances the social fabric. Now, again, I finish with energy because energy plays a massive hub in the community, obviously, but also in community buying, in lots of ways of buying, but it's not the only thing. What's really interesting is community buying has a purer business model than any of the following. Now, this is not actually this is not aimed specifically at any of these. However, they're a mixture of disconnected thinking, flawed business models, and some interesting opaque income sources. But the bottom line is that every one of these attempts to do something in a community and says it does, but it doesn't actually manage to pull off the same result as community buying. This is why. They fail to harness the power in the community. Okay. I've got somebody who's got a little hand up, and I'm going to go and answer a question. Oh, Chrissy, you've lost sound. The solution I can give you, having experienced this on a webinar before, is literally if you just log off and log back on. If anybody else is having the same problem, I'd love to know, because if you are, we will ourselves stop, log off, and log back on. But we're just doing our own test in the office to see if the sound is working, and I'm being given the thumbs up, and I will continue. Okay, so the point really is, as the thing that makes community buying different, is it harnesses the power of the group and the power of the community. So it doesn't matter whether the community is actually doing something else. It doesn't matter if it's doing any manner of things. At the same time as it's doing all of these things, it can actually achieve the one thing that we're talking about, and that is, of course, buying. So it doesn't matter who's doing it either. It can be somebody who's literally volunteering on their own or organising for an organisation. It can be a school or university. It can be an institution where parliaments come together. It could be local councils. It could be national councils. It can be local tradesmen. It can be charities, obviously local businesses, big corporations with big head offices, housing associations, and any number of different charities. The question mark is simply fill in the blanks. Whoever wants to get involved in community buying in whatever way they do, they can, because there is an indisputable truth, and that is that no matter who you are or what position you hold in society, and quite often that doesn't really matter at all, we all buy stuff. We all have to buy stuff. And the way community buying does it is it's a route to changing the way we all buy stuff. The model is proven. Community buying saves time, lives. It obviously saves money for the public purse because it protects the vulnerable. It certainly saves community. It enhances them. It galvanizes communities. And of course, it saves money. So we're up to and over and beyond £1 million for a section of our membership on one specific energy, which is heating oil. And I fully expect the next £1 million to be saved in an awful lot quicker time, potentially months. Eventually, I expect community buying, the phenomenon, to be saving millions of pounds a week. So what's the really interesting thing is that, or the way we achieve that is the really interesting thing, and that is that, and if you've seen this slide before, I don't think you can see it enough, or this set of slides, is that we flip the ownership of the middle ground. The middle ground between the customer and the corporation. Now, obviously, these people quite often are facing one way from the corporation to the customer, and they would call that customer facing. And quite often in the past, they might have called that customer face off. But as Mahatma Gandhi said, it doesn't matter what people think in this scenario. If you get yourself organized, you can win. Okay, and I'm going to not use that kind of vernacular of winning too much, because it's not actually about, although this has to be the ultimate of people getting the community organised. They came together and they truly got organised to create huge change. Now, if I were around at the time, I think I would be looking to that community to group buy their black suits, their black ties, their white shirts, and probably also the bus tickets for which they protested so strongly. The bottom line is that it's about getting organised, and you can literally do anything when you do. So harnessing the power of exactly that group and simply getting organised, you do one thing. you create something that you probably didn't know you were going to create in the first place. One of my favorite pictures this is simply where a group of people came together and they created something they probably couldn't even imagine they were going to be part of, but because they were part of it, it was even more spectacular than the thing that they thought they were going to